I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. I was the perfect daughter. I wasn't just good. I was everything my parents ever asked me to be. My name is Aria, and I'm 28 years old. For most of my life, I believed that if you worked hard enough, if you were kind enough, if you made your parents proud, everything would turn out okay. I believed that family meant something. That blood was thicker than water. That the people who raised you would never, ever hurt you on purpose. I was wrong about all of it. Growing up, my parents, Linda and Robert, had very clear expectations. My mom was a teacher and my dad worked in sales. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. And they made sure I knew that comfort came from hard work and doing the right thing. So that's what I did. I got straight A's all through school. I never went to parties. I never caused trouble. I went to a good college, studied software engineering, and graduated with honors. I got a job at a tech company making more money than my parents ever dreamed of. When I was 25, I bought my first condo. $500,000. I had saved for years, worked overtime, lived like a student even after graduation. The day I got the keys, I cried. I called my parents from the empty living room, and my mom cried too. She told me how proud she was, how I had made it, how I was living proof that hard work pays off. But then came the conversation that would ruin everything. My dad said they wanted to talk to me about something important. We met for dinner, and that's when he suggested it. Honey, you should put our names on the deed, just as a safety measure, in case something happens to you. We're your parents. We'd never do anything bad. It's just smart planning. I remember hesitating. Something in my gut told me to say no. But then my mom reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Sweetheart, we just want to protect you. You're our daughter. We love you. And I believed her. God, I believed her. So I did it. I put their names on the deed right next to mine. What they didn't know? What I never told them was that a year later I bought another property, a small house in a quiet neighborhood across town. It was an investment, something I could rent out and build equity. I put only my name on that deed. Not because I didn't trust them. I think part of me just wanted something that was completely mine. Something I didn't have to share or explain. It felt good to have a secret, even a harmless one. I wish I could say I saw the warning signs, but I didn't. Or maybe I did and I just ignored them, because that's what good daughters do, right? They give their parents the benefit of the doubt. They believe in family. They trust my younger brother Jason was 30 years old and still living in my parents' basement. He had dropped out of college after one semester. He'd had maybe 6 jobs in the past 10 years, never lasting more than a few months at any of them. He spent his days playing video games and talking about business ideas that never went anywhere. And my parents, they never pushed him. They never demanded he be better. They just made excuses. Jason's figuring things out, my mom would say. He's creative. He needs time to find his path. Meanwhile, I was just expected to succeed. No praise for my promotions. No celebration when I paid off my student loans 5 years early. Just a nod and, hey, that's nice, honey, before they went back to worrying about Jason. But I told myself it didn't matter. I didn't need their approval anymore. I had my own life, my own home, my own success. I was happy, or at least I thought I was. I had no idea that in just a few months, everything I'd worked for would be ripped away from me. And the people holding the knife would be the ones I trusted most. The pain started on a Tuesday morning. I was at my desk at work reviewing code when it felt like someone had stabbed me in the stomach with a hot poker. I doubled over, gasping, and my coworker Sarah rushed over. Aria, you're white as a sheet, she said. I tried to laugh it off, said it was probably just something I ate. But deep down, I knew this was different. The pain didn't stop. For 2 weeks, I lived on painkillers and tried to push through. I've always been like that. Stubborn, independent, the kind of person who doesn't ask for help until she's literally on the floor. And that's almost what happened. One night, the pain got so bad I couldn't stand up. I drove myself to the emergency room at 2 a.m, tears streaming down my face, barely able to see the road. The ER doctor ordered tests, CT scans, blood work, ultrasounds. I laid on that cold table in a hospital gown, staring at the fluorescent lights, and I felt so alone. I had friends, sure, but no partner. No one to call in the middle of the night. It's just me. When the doctor came back with the results, his face was serious. "Miss Chen, we found a mass. A large tumor in your abdomen. We need to do more tests, but we're going to need to remove it surgically soon." Tumor, the word echoed in my head like a gunshot. I was 28 years old. I ate healthy. I exercised. I didn't smoke. I barely drank. How could this be happening to me? The oncologist explained that it was likely benign. But they wouldn't know for sure until they did the surgery and ran pathology. The operation would be major. 8 to 10 hours. They'd have to cut through muscle and tissue. Recovery would take months. I'd need to take medical leave from work. I'd need help. That's when I called my parents. I sat in my condo that night, phone shaking in my hand, and I dialed their number. My mom answered on the second ring. "Arya, it's late, honey. Is everything okay?" And then I just broke down. I sobbed into the phone like a little girl. I told her about the tumor, about the surgery, about how scared I was. I told her I didn't know if I could do this alone. My mother's voice changed. It became soft, warm, comforting. The voice I remembered from childhood when I'd wake up from nightmares. "Oh, sweetheart, listen to me. You are not alone. You hear me? Your father and I are here. We will take care of everything. You just focus on getting through this surgery. We've got you. We've always got you." I believed her. In that moment, scared and vulnerable and facing the biggest health crisis of my life, I let myself believe that my parents would protect me, that they'd be there for me the way parents are supposed to be there for their children. I actually felt grateful that I had them, that I wasn't completely alone in this world. The surgery was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Those weeks were a blur of pre-op appointments, medical paperwork, and trying to get my affairs in order. I told my boss I'd be out for at least 3 months. I paid my bills ahead. I meal prepped and froze everything I could. I was trying to control what I could control, 'cause everything else felt like it was spinning out of my hands. My parents came to visit me the week before the surgery. They brought groceries and helped me clean my condo. My dad even fixed a leaky faucet I'd been ignoring. We had dinner together, Chinese takeout from my favorite place, and for a moment it felt like we were a real family, like they actually cared. My mom hugged me before they left and whispered in my ear, "We love you so much, Arya. Everything's going to be okay." I watched them drive away from my window, and I felt this warmth in my chest. Maybe I'd been too hard on them over the years. Maybe I'd let my jealousy over Jason cloud my judgment. They were here for me now, when it really mattered. That's what counted, right? The night before my surgery, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the things that could go wrong. What if the tumor was cancerous? What if I didn't wake up? What if this was it? I wrote a letter to my parents telling them I loved them, telling them where my important documents were. I left it on my kitchen counter when the hospital called at 5 a.m. to tell me to come in. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely button my shirt. I drove myself to the hospital in the dark, and the only thing that kept me calm was knowing my parents would be there when I woke up. They promised they'd be in the waiting room. They promised they wouldn't leave. I should have known better than to trust promises. I remember the surgery in fragments. The anesthesiologist telling me to count backward from 10. The cold rush of the 4 in my arm. I got to 7 before everything went black. They told me later that the surgery took 9 hours. 9 hours where I was completely gone from the world. 9 hours where anything could happen. And it did. Waking up was like drowning. My mouth was dry as sand. Every inch of my body screamed in pain. There were tubes everywhere. In my arms and my nose, monitoring my heartbeat, my oxygen, everything. A nurse appeared above me, her face kind. "Arya, can you hear me? The surgery went well. You're in recovery." I tried to nod, but even that hurt. She gave me more pain medication, and I drifted in and out of consciousness for what felt like days. When I finally really came to, it was 2 days after the surgery. I was in a regular hospital room. The sun was streaming through the window. For a moment, just a brief, beautiful moment, I felt relieved. I was alive. I'd made it through. Then I saw them. My parents sitting in the chairs by my bed. My dad was reading a newspaper. My mom was on her phone. They looked so normal, so casual, like they were waiting for a dentist appointment, not visiting their daughter who just had a tumor removed. Mom, Dad! My voice came out as a croak. They both looked up and my mother's face broke into a smile. Oh, sweetheart, you're awake. We've been so worried. She stood up and came to my bedside, brushing hair off my forehead. My dad folded his newspaper and stood too, but he didn't come closer. He just stood there, hands in his pockets with this strange expression on his face. Something between guilt and determination. How are you feeling, honey? My mom asked. I told her I was in pain, but okay. That the doctors said they got the whole tumor and it looked benign. They'd know for sure in a few days. She nodded along, but I could tell she wasn't really listening. She kept glancing at my dad. And then he cleared his throat. Arya, honey, we need to talk to you about something important. The way he said it made my stomach drop. Even through the haze of pain medication, I knew something was wrong. What is it? I whispered. My mom took my hand and I noticed her palm was sweating. Sweetie, while you were in surgery, your father and I had to make some difficult decisions. We did what we thought was best for you. It's best for me. Those words should have been comforting. Instead, they felt like a warning. My dad stepped closer to the bed, and that's when he said it. The words that would destroy everything. We sold your condo, Arya. We got $500,000 for it. Don't worry, we're keeping the money safe. And when you recover, you can come live with us. We've already moved your things out. The room started spinning. I thought maybe I was having a reaction to the medication. Maybe I was hallucinating. What? It was all I could say. Just that one word. What? My mother squeezed my hand tighter. We know it's a shock, but think about it rationally. You're going to need care for months. You can't live alone right now. You can't work. You need your family. We made this decision because we love you. I tried to sit up, but the pain in my abdomen was blinding. You sold my home. While I was unconscious? How could you even do that? My dad's jaw tightened. Our names are on the deed. Arya. We had every legal right. And frankly, you should be thanking us. We got top dollar for it. The market's good right now. The money's safe in an account and you'll get it back when you're stable enough to handle your finances responsibly. When I'm stable enough? When I can handle it responsibly. Like I was a child. Like I hadn't bought that condo with my own money. My own hard work. I looked at my mother, waiting for her to say something, to tell me this was a joke, a misunderstanding. But she just smiled that same sweet smile and said, It's all going to work out, honey. You'll see. Sometimes parents have to make hard choices for their children's own good. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip the 4 out of my arm and run. But I couldn't. I could barely breathe without pain shooting through my body. I was trapped. Completely and utterly trapped. They had taken everything from me while I was cut open on an operating table, helpless and trusting. And now they stood here acting like they'd done me a favor. My dad patted my foot through the blanket. We'll let you rest now. We'll be back tomorrow to discuss the living arrangements. Jason's excited to have his big sister home. And then they left. Just walked out like they hadn't just destroyed my entire life. I laid there in that hospital bed, machines beeping around me, and I couldn't even cry. The betrayal was too big for tears. It was too big for anything. That night, alone in my hospital room, I stared at the ceiling tiles and counted them. 147. I counted them over and over because if I stopped counting, I'd have to face what had just happened. The nurse came in for a vitals check at midnight, and she asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. I'd gotten very good at lying, but I wasn't fine. I was drowning in a rage so deep it felt like it was eating me from the inside out. My own parents. The people who were supposed to protect me had stolen everything while I was fighting for my life on an operating table. And the worst part? They thought they'd won. They thought I had nowhere to go. No options. That I'd have to crawl back to them, grateful and broken. They forgot one crucial thing. I'm a problem solver. It's literally what I do for a living. I write code, I find solutions, I debug systems that seem impossible to fix. And right then, lying in that hospital bed with surgical staples holding my stomach together, I started debugging my life at 3 in the morning. When the hospital was quiet, except for distant beeps and footsteps, I reached for my phone. My hands were shaking, partly from the medication, partly from pure fury. I pulled up my banking app first. My savings account, the one only I had access to, still had $60,000 in it. They hadn't found that. Then I opened my email and searched for one name, Rebecca Thornton. My real estate lawyer, Rebecca, had helped me buy my house 3 years ago. She was sharp, no nonsense, and she'd given me her cell number with instructions to call anytime I needed legal help. I never thought I'd actually use it. I typed out an email with trembling fingers. Rebecca, I need your help urgently. My parents sold my condo without my permission while I was in surgery. I need to know my options. Please call me as soon as you can. I hit send at 3:17 in the morning. She called me at 7:30. I was awake, hadn't slept at all. Aria, I got your email. Tell me everything. And I did. I told her about the surgery, about waking up to find my home sold, about my parents claiming they had legal right because their names were on the deed. I heard her typing furiously on the other end. When exactly did they sign the sale documents? She asked. I didn't know. She told me to find out. So when my parents came back that afternoon, all smiles and carrying flowers like this was a normal hospital visit, I asked. My dad seemed proud when he answered. We closed the sale yesterday morning, 10 a.m. Very smooth transaction. I made myself smile. Wow, that's efficient. Inside, my heart was racing. Yesterday morning at 10 a.m., I was still in surgery. I was literally unconscious. Cut open on a table, Rebecca's voice echoed in my head from our call. If they signed documents claiming to have your permission while you were physically unable to give it. That's fraud, Aria. That's forgery. We can fight this. But I didn't tell my parents that. Instead, I played weak. Defeated, I let my mother fuss over my pillows. I let my father explain how much money they'd save me by letting me live with them rent-free. I nodded along like a good daughter. When they left, I called Rebecca back. They signed while I was in surgery. I have medical records that prove it. Timestamps, everything. I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. Then we have them. But Aria, this is going to take time. Months, maybe? Legal battles move slowly. In the meantime, where are you going to live when you're discharged? That's when I told her about the house. My secret house. The investment property I'd bought and never mentioned to my parents. I could hear her pause. You own another property? They don't know about it. I confirmed. There was a moment of silence, and then Rebecca laughed. Actually laughed. Aria, you brilliant woman. Here's what we're going to do. We made a plan. Rebecca would file a lawsuit for fraud, forgery, and theft. She'd freeze any accounts where my parents had deposited the money from the sale. But we wouldn't tell them yet. We'd let them think they'd gotten away with it. Let them get comfortable. Meanwhile, I'd contact Marcus, my tenant, and explain I needed to move into the house. Rebecca assured me that since I owned it outright, there was nothing my parents could do to touch it. I called Marcus that evening. He was a graduate student, quiet, always paid rent on time. Marcus, hi. I'm so sorry for the short notice, but I'm going to need to move into the house in 2 weeks. I'll give you back your deposit plus an extra month's rent for the inconvenience. He was understanding, said he'd been thinking about moving closer to campus anyway. Just like that, I had a home my parents knew nothing about. The next few days in the hospital were the hardest acting job of my life. My parents visited daily. My mother brought magazines and talked about redecorating their spare room for me. My brother Jason came once, looked uncomfortable, and left after 10 minutes. I smiled. I thanked them. I pretended to be the helpless daughter they expected. But every night after they left, I was on my phone, coordinating with Rebecca, arranging for movers to pick up my things from wherever my parents had stored them, planning every detail of my escape. Because that's what it was, an escape. From people who were supposed to love me but instead saw me as an asset to exploit. The doctor cleared me for discharge on a Friday. My parents were thrilled. "We'll pick you up at noon," my mother said, clapping her hands together. "I've made up the spare room so nicely. You're going to love it." I smiled at her. I can't wait. I lied. But I could wait. I could wait exactly 7 more days. 7 days of playing their game. And then I'd show them who they'd really been dealing with all along. Living in my parents' house was like being buried alive. The spare room was tiny, barely big enough for the twin bed and old dresser they'd shoved in there. My mother had hung up floral curtains and put a vase of fake flowers on the nightstand. Like that would make up for stealing my entire life. Every morning, I woke up to the sound of Jason playing video games in the basement, shouting at his screen. Every night, I fell asleep to my parents talking in the next room about how well they'd handled the situation. I heard everything through those thin walls. On the 3rd night, I heard my father on the phone with someone, probably a friend from work. "Yeah, we got 500 grand for it. Condo market's insane right now. Linda wants to use some of it to finalido that kitchen renovation. And Jason's got this business idea, a food truck thing. We figured we'd help him out." My mother's voice chimed in. "Arya will understand eventually. She's always been so independent. This will teach her that family comes first. That she needs us." I laid there in the dark, my surgical wounds still aching, and I wanted to scream. They weren't keeping my money safe. They were already spending it on themselves, on Jason, on everything except me, the daughter who'd actually earned it, the daughter who was supposed to trust them. But I didn't scream. I stayed silent. I played the role perfectly. I let my mother bring me soup. I let my father lecture me about financial responsibility while he sat in a chair that my money had probably paid for. I watched Jason sprawl on the couch, eating food from the fridge, living his consequence-free life while I recovered from surgery in a room that smelled like mothballs. Rebecca texted me every day with updates. The lawsuit was filed. The accounts were frozen. My parents had no idea the legal storm that was coming for them. "Just a few more days," she'd text. "Then you can get out of there." I counted down the hours like a prisoner counting down to freedom. On the 7th morning, I woke up early, 5 a.m. The house was silent. I got dressed slowly, carefully, because my stomach still hurt if I moved too fast. I packed my bags with the few things I'd brought to their house, my laptop, some clothes, the photographs I'd salvaged. Then I sat on that terrible twin bed and waited for my moment. At 8 a.m., I heard my parents moving around, the coffee maker gurgling, my mother's slippers shuffling on the kitchen floor. I picked up my bags, took a deep breath, and walked downstairs. My mother was at the stove making eggs. My father sat at the table reading news on his tablet. Jason was, predictably, still asleep. "Good morning, sweetie," my mother said without turning around. "You're up early. How are you feeling?" I set my bags down by the front door. The sound made my father look up. His eyes went to the bags, then to my face. "What's going on?" he asked slowly. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "I'm going home." My mother turned around from the stove, spatula in hand, confusion crossing her face. "What are you talking about? You are home. You're staying with us, remember?" The condescension in her voice made my blood boil. "No, Mom. I'm going to my home, the house I own. The one you don't know about." The words hung in the air like a bomb. My father stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. "What house?" His voice was sharp, almost angry, like I'd done something wrong by having something he couldn't control. I pulled out my phone and showed them pictures. It's a neat brick exterior. The garden with the rose bushes, the porch with the swing. This house, I bought it 3 years ago. Paid for it myself. It's been rented out, but my tenant just moved out. So I'm moving in today. Thanks for the hospitality, but I won't be needing the spare room anymore. My mother's face went white, then red. You've had a house this whole time and you never told us. I shrugged, and even that small movement hurt my healing incision. I didn't think I needed to. It's my house, my investment. Why would I tell you about every financial decision I make? My father's hands were clenched into fists. This is ridiculous, Arya. You just had major surgery. You can't live alone. You need help. You need family. The hypocrisy of those words coming from his mouth almost made me laugh. Funny you should mention family, Dad, because I've been thinking a lot about what family means, and I've realized something. Family doesn't steal from you while you're unconscious on an operating table. The kitchen went dead silent. Even the eggs had stopped sizzling. My mother's hand trembled on the spatula. We didn't steal anything. We made a decision for your own good. That money is safe. Her voice was defensive now, high-pitched. Is it? I asked. Is it safe? Because I heard Dad on the phone talking about kitchen renovations. I heard you both discussing Jason's food truck idea. That doesn't sound like keeping my money safe. That sounds like spending it. My father's jaw tightened. We were going to pay you back, eventually when you were ready to handle it responsibly. That word again? Responsibly. Like I was the irresponsible one. Like I hadn't worked my way through college. Like I hadn't bought a condo at 25. Like I hadn't saved and invested and planned while their golden child Jason couldn't even hold down a job at a grocery store. Here's the thing, I said, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. You don't get to decide when I'm ready. You don't get to decide anything about my life anymore. Because guess what? I have a lawyer. Her name is Rebecca Thornton. Expect she's already filed a lawsuit against you for fraud and forgery. The color drained from my father's face so fast I thought he might actually faint. My mother dropped the spatula, clattered against the tile floor, eggs forgotten, burning on the stove. A lawsuit. She whispered, Arya, you can't be serious. We're your parents. I picked up my bags. You signed sale documents on my behalf while I was in surgery, while I was literally unconscious, being cut open. You forged my signature. That's fraud, Mom. That's a felony. Rebecca's already submitted my medical records proving I couldn't have authorized anything that day. The timestamps match up perfectly. My father tried to regain control. He always did that when cornered. His voice got louder, more authoritative. This is insane. You're being irrational. We were trying to help you. We'll give you the money back if that's what you want, but a lawsuit against your own family. I turned to look at him, really look at him, and I saw him for what he truly was. Not my protector, not my father. It's just a man who'd gotten caught. You'll give it back because a judge is going to order you to. Rebecca's already frozen the accounts where you deposited the sale money, every penny. You can't touch it. You can't. Spend it on kitchen renovations or Jason's food truck or anything else. And when this goes to court, you'll be paying it all back, plus legal fees, plus damages for the emotional distress of finding out your parents are thieves. That's when my mother started to cry, real tears streaming down her face. How can you do this to us after everything we've done for you? We raised you. We fed you. We put a roof over your head. I felt something crack inside my chest, but it wasn't sympathy. It was the final breaking of whatever bond had tied me to these people. You raised me to be independent and successful, I said quietly, and then you punished me for it. You sold my home, the one I bought with my own money, my own hard work, because you thought I'd be too weak to fight back. You thought I'd just accept it. Come live in your spare room. Be grateful. Be the obedient daughter who doesn't ask questions. I shook my head, but I'm not that person. I never was. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Jason appeared, hair sticking up, wearing sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. "What's all the yelling about?" he mumbled. He looked at my bags, at our parents' faces, and his expression shifted to something like understanding. Maybe even guilt. "Oh, she found out." "Found out?" I turned to him. "You knew? You knew what they did?" Jason had the decency to look at the floor. "They mentioned it. Said they were helping you out. Setting you up to come home." Home. Like this place had ever been my home. Like I belonged here among people who saw me as an ATM machine. "Enjoy spending your own money for once," I told Jason, "'cause the free ride's over. When mom and dad have to pay back everything they stole, plus legal fees, they're not going to have anything left for your latest failed business venture." His face flushed red, but he didn't say anything. What could he say? We both knew I was right. I walked to the front door. My mother followed me, still crying. "Arya, please, can't we talk about this? You're our daughter. We love you." I turned back one last time. If this is what your love looks like, I don't want it. You had a choice. When I was at my most vulnerable, when I needed you most, you had a choice. You could have protected me. Instead, you exploited me. That's not love, Mom. That's betrayal. My father had his phone out. "I'm calling our lawyer. This is ridiculous. We'll fight this." I smiled. "Go ahead. Rebecca's looking forward to it. She specializes in elder financial abuse cases, but she said parent-child theft is even easier to prove, especially when the parents are stupid enough to sign documents with timestamps that prove fraud." I opened the door. The morning air felt like freedom. "One more thing," I said. "Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up at my house. Any contact goes through Rebecca now. She'll be sending you the official paperwork in a few days. After that, I'll see you in court." I walked out of that house and didn't look back. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in my car ignition. But once I started driving, heading toward my real home, the house they knew nothing about, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Power, control. Like I was finally the author of my own story again. The house was exactly as I remembered it. Marcus had left it clean, keys on the kitchen counter with a nice note, wishing me well. I walked through the empty rooms, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors, and I felt myself start to breathe properly for the first time since the surgery. This was mine, only mine. They couldn't take it. They didn't even know it existed until today. I stood in the living room, looking out at the small garden where morning light filtered through the trees. And I let myself cry. Not because I was sad. Because I was finally free. Free from the obligation to be the perfect daughter. Free from the guilt they'd used to control me my whole life. Free from the lie that family meant accepting abuse. That evening, Rebecca called. I heard from their lawyer. They want to settle. Avoid court. Pay you back quietly. I leaned against my kitchen counter, looking around at my empty house that would soon be filled with my things, my life, my choices. What are the terms? Full repayment of the $500,000. All legal fees. A formal apology. And they want you to drop the fraud charges. I thought about it. About my mother's tears. My father's anger. Jason's uncomfortable silence. "No," I said. "No settlement. We go to court. I want it on record what they did. I want a judge to say it was wrong." Rebecca paused. "Arya, that's going to be brutal. They're your parents. It'll be public, ugly." I knew she was right. But I also knew something else. They made their choice when they forged my signature. I'm making mine now. We go to court.